Hey everybody, it's Jonathan. Just wanted to let you know that we're going to be starting here in just a couple minutes. We're waiting on some people to join us, and then we'll get started. So, let's see here. Here we are. And then as people comment, we'll be good to go. Alrighty, so it's 3 o'clock. We're gonna get started here. I'm here with Julie Nelson, and she's gonna be helping us out today. We're gonna go over just some different design questions and tips and things like that. And I really appreciate you being with me today.
It's a pleasure.
So if you don't mind, just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do, your experience, and
I'd be happy to. I'm an Allied ASID interior designer, and I've been doing it for over 20 years. And I've had the privilege of working here in the area with Eller and Owens. I've been up in the area for almost 14 years, but here in Cleveland a little over a year.
Yeah.
Came over here. We are excited to have the store open over here.
Great.
Very good.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm glad you're in the area, and I know I had the privilege of working with you to get you moved here. So I'm just really glad you were open to joining me here.
It's a pleasure. It's exciting, and this area has been very warm and welcoming.
Well, good, awesome. Well, one of the things that I told you when I told you I wanted to do this was just wanting to get some tips out there for people, just to kind of give them some basic overview and ideas of some of the things that they might want to look out for when they're picking out furniture for their home, and doing some remodeling projects, or even something as simple as repainting, and just trying to kind of figure out the best tips and tricks and everything for that. And so just to let you all know, Julie is actually going to be answering questions as well. So I'm giving away a $25 Lowe's gift card. So you have a chance to win that by submitting your questions. So just let us know if you have anything that you'd like us to address while we're doing all this, and we'd be glad to address that, and you'll get a chance to possibly win a prize. So, if you're ready, we'll go ahead and get started, I guess.
Absolutely.
So basically the first thing, when we were talking earlier, the first thing that you mentioned to me was that scale is everything. And I know I'm sure several people out there have bought a couch or a piece of furniture that you thought would be just perfect, and then when you got it home, it wasn't quite the right fit. So talk to us a little bit about scale and what you should look for when you're looking for furnishings for your home.
Well, things can look much smaller in large spaces, as in showrooms. And so, obviously, by the picture, somebody didn't measure very well.
That's right.
And that's where the good design helps avoid mistakes. And it's been fun talking with Jonathan about some of the things that we're looking at here. And the second picture is a very typical, where you have a lot of small pieces in a room, whereas really fewer but larger pieces make a space feel bigger and more inviting and much less cluttered.
Yeah.
Good design helps avoid these mistakes. It's one of those things where numbers, measurements, space doesn't lie. It is an exact. And if we work well with that, then we put just the perfect pieces in the space.
That's cool. And that's really cool what you said when we were talking earlier and getting this together. That fewer large pieces are better. And I had always thought that if you have a smaller room, that larger pieces can make it feel cramped. But if it's done the right way, I guess that's the key is
Absolutely. And you want to, especially in small spaces, be able to really maximize the use of the space well. And that's where good design comes in listening to how you live in the space to make it do the things you need it to do.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. So that was the first tip, is scale is everything. And the second one that we came across, which I've found to be very true, is paint is the least expensive way to update a room. And it's probably the most forgiving thing you can do too, because it's not that expensive to repaint if you make a mistake or choose the wrong color.
Absolutely. And their paint sets the tone for the room, and it is one of your major layers in a space. There is a lot of psychology behind color. How does it make you feel when you are in the space? And color reflects very differently in daytime light and nighttime light, and all of the other elements that are in the space, from floors to what eventually are the furnishings in there, as to how they play together.
Yeah. Well, and one of the questions that I got was they were asking, what about the gray? You know, you see HGTV and everybody's talking about gray, and how it's the thing to do now. And they were saying, well, we did gray, but it looked gray on the paintbrush, and it looked gray, but when we painted the whole room, now it doesn't look gray, it looks brown, or it looks, you know, a different color. And so, you know, I guess, would that be lighting, or what are some of the things that can go into making gray kind of change like that?
Lighting is huge in how the color reflects in a space. And it's like you can walk into a room and it has the same paint on all of the walls, but on one wall it appears a different color, even though you know you've painted all the walls the same color. But it is just those little simple things of dots of pigmentation when they're mixing paint. What is the undertone in the paint? And that's why it's really, really good to either have a designer who knows what these paints look like and will make sure that in the space that it's going into, it is appropriate for the way that the light reflects in there. Or that's why get a sample, expend the energy, even if you spend a few dollars in getting several different colors, and do not just a small patch, but a large patch. And do it in a couple of places in the room so that you can really see how it reflects in the space. And gray, by its nature, has black in the tone in it, and sometimes that can pull a room either darker than you expect, even from the paint swatches, or it actually is a cool color. And even though gray is really popular right now, the way that the design trends are going right now is to add warm pops of color with the gray, because it feels cold to a lot of people, and then that much overused term of grayish, as we're seeing the grays go to the gray beige tones, which is beautiful, but it's just that a lot of clients can't live with the stark cold gray.
Yeah, yeah. And another thing we were talking about is, even with the flooring and things like that, you know, different, you were telling me that wood absorbs, is it 35% of light in the room? Is that correct?
It absolutely can. When you have a lot of wood in a space, especially if you have wood floors, wood walls, wood ceilings, depends on how much wood is in the space, you have to overcompensate with your lighting package in those spaces to make up for what the wood is pulling out of the room for light.
Yeah, yeah. That's cool.
And people, it's unexpected.
Yeah, yeah. It's something that you don't really take into account when you're trying to decide all that. So
absolutely.
so it's neat. Okay.
Very good.
Well, for those of you just joining us, just letting you know that we are here with interior designer Julie Nelson. She is just kind of helping us out with some tips and tricks and things to home design and some things to watch out for. So if you have any questions at all, just send those over to us and we'd be glad to answer those, and you'll get a chance to win a $25 Lowe's gift card. So we've just talked about paint and how easy it is to change everything with paint. Our next topic is going to be layering, and of course this is something that I got from you. So layering a space, and you gave me a little bit of an idea of color, furnishings, flooring, stuff like that. But tell me a little bit more about layering a space, and maybe even like, what do you start with when you're trying to layer? Like, where's a good place to start, and how do you build it?
Good. Layering your space is always starting with your largest anchors. That is going to be your larger primary seating pieces in the room. We're looking at more of a living space in the picture here. It would be the same thing even if it's a dining space or a bedroom space. Always your largest anchors, that's where we start, and then we're going to work from there. Your layers of design are always going to be large anchors, but it is always your floors, your walls, rugs, accessories, and you start with your primary pieces. We marry color. That's walls are big features in the room, and then we want to start layering with our lighting and our rugs. And rugs are like art on the floor. If we are putting area rugs into spaces to make spaces feel inviting, cohesive, bring resonance down, because hardwood floors are just very much the norm now in so many homes. Some homes, whether it has tile in it, all of those things that we can do to bring the sound level down is excellent, but it also makes the space feel really good. Window treatments are not mostly hard treatments. We use those for light control, privacy, but even subtle fabric panels, if we have a home that's a good style. That also is great for flavor, texture, but it also helps bring the sound levels down in the space and make it very comfortable.
Nice. And how about, there was another question I got that had to do with the curtains, and as far as where the curtains should come to. Like, they've got windows that are short and high up, and so they're wondering, like, should the curtain stop right below the window, or should it go all the way down the wall, even though the window stops, about chest level? How do you do this?
No, and absolutely, you want your drapery panels to accentuate the height in the space. When you chop your room off at below window level, it's like short pants, so to speak, on it. You want to bring it down, and that rule of thumb is always 1/2 to 1 inch from the floor. That's where you want your finish point to be, to the bottom of your fabric where it's tipping. And even if they're fixed panels or moving panels, you want that approximately 1/2 inch to 1 inch from the floor, and go almost to the ceiling height. And especially if you have standard height ceilings in the room at 8 foot, it really gives a visual significance of height, and that's what you want, is to really bring the space up.
Cool. Okay. And how high above the window do you typically put your curtain rod and everything?
If you're doing decorative rotting, that the panels don't move back and forth across the window, generally what you want to do is, if you have standard height ceilings or even up to 10-foot ceilings, then you want to use either the half rule or the 1/3, 2/3. Bring the rotting, the decorative rotting, about 1/3 of the way up above the window, between the top of the window and the ceiling height.
Okay.
Because the taller the ceiling, you know, it's an aesthetic measurement to a degree, but there are rules that you want to use. And when you are up high and you're doing rodding in space, always go with a heavier rod, at least a 1 inch. Don't do the little narrow rods, because they'll feel insignificant in the, you know, up there. You need something with some visual weight to it.
Great, awesome. So, so layering a space, talked about that. Next is a topic that I think is something that is beginning to be talked about a lot more nowadays. You know, it seems like, especially with marketing and things like that, a lot of people are marketing things as green, whether they are or not, just because that seems to kind of be, you know, where we're at right now is marketing things as green and actually being more green. And I think, you know, of course that's important for a variety of different reasons, but one of the things that you mentioned that I know to be true from my fireplace days is the tighter you build homes now, you know, stuff can't get out as much. You can't, stuff doesn't ventilate as easy. You don't get as much fresh air in as we used to. And I know, like, you know, speaking on a fireplace term, you know, on fireplace terms, you know, when we put in a wood burning fireplace, a lot of times in newer homes we'd have to introduce a fresh air kit where you would actually bring more fresh air into the house. And it seems kind of odd to, I mean, you build a house to be so efficient and then you're putting outside air into it. But it's important because there's only so much air in the space, right?
Exactly, and that term is reclaimed air.
Okay.
And so it's applicable to fireplaces. It's applicable, so many of us love to cook on gas, and whether it's natural gas or whether it's propane, it doesn't really make any difference. It is that the newer the home, the tighter it is, which is good for energy efficiency, but it's bad for what we breathe. And you want to have really high outside vented CFM hoods over gas ranges, especially in new homes, because you need to have that reclaimed air effect where you're drawing the things that just turning burners on and off. But it's a lot of other things too. It's all the things that are the new products in the home, and the more green the home is. And most people are aware of low VOC paints. You know, we don't, it's not that we just don't want them to smell bad, it's that we don't want them to chemically affect us as much.
Sure.
And all of the things that we can buy now that that they're not introducing a lot of formaldehydes, the things that we want to make sure that we don't put in our home and keep in our home. And so even something as simple as once in a while, even in cold weather times, is to crack a window a tiny bit and let your home breathe a little bit, because studies are showing, and a lot of us are on crawl spaces because of our vertical living and our rolly area that we have, and from basements to crawl spaces, all of that air moves from the lower level up to the highest points in the home. And so we want to make sure that what we are moving through our home and breathing is something that is clean. And so, yes, it's very important.
Yeah, I mean, especially in newer homes, or when you're doing a remodeling project or
Mm-hmm.
things, my wife, when she was young, they remodeled a home and they made it tighter and everything, and there was a carbon monoxide leak in her central heating and air, and it had never caused an issue. But then when they made the home tighter and more efficient,
Mm-hmm.
then it became a problem. And so a lot of times people don't really think about changes like that. They don't really think about, well, I'm going to put new windows in, or I'm going to put more insulation in, that that's lowering the amount of fresh air that you're actually getting into.
Absolutely. Good for your power bills, not so good sometimes for what we're breathing.
in,
Absolutely.
Yeah, so, well, cool. So, once again, if you're joining us, this is Julie Nelson. She's an interior designer, and we're just going over some tips for designing your home and furnishing it and different things. So, really appreciate her joining us. But please comment below if you have any questions. You can message me, you can comment, and we'll be glad to get to those and help you out with that. So, one thing that I wanted to go over next, and that's something that I guess you don't really hear a realtor wanting to talk about too much. And that's, because oftentimes the answer is, well, we can buy a new home, I can sell you a home. But aging in place is something that's important, especially, after the kids have moved out, you're, once again, empty nesters, and sometimes with that comes downsizing and purchasing another home. But in the cases of that, or even in remodeling the existing home you have, it's important to really kind of think long term. Sometimes people, the kids leave, they're still kind of in their 50s, they still feel really good, and so the remodeling doesn't really, or choosing a new home doesn't really, the conversation doesn't really lend towards, well, we want to make sure that it's accessible for us when we're 70 or 80, or that it's easy for us to be here and to stay here. Talk a little bit about some of the things that are important to consider when you're looking at that.
Well, clients are becoming very aware if they're buying a new home or building a new home, when they are in, you mentioned like 50s, that they're much more aware of, if I want to stay here a long time, what should I be looking for?
Yeah.
Or what should I be asking to be designed for me? Or if they are remodeling a home, what are the things I really need to pay attention to make sure that not only for now while I'm really healthy, that I can enjoy this house for many years. And it is a lot of things, from simply putting in, instead of just the traditional 2/6 doors, put a 36-inch door in for bedrooms. There's very little difference in cost. Do your zero-edge showers in your master bedrooms, and make sure that all of your door openings, it's not something that you really want to have to be terribly concerned about right now at this age, but make sure that if you're having to move through with equipment, wheelchairs, accessible, all of those things, that it's very easy to move through the spaces. Kitchens, you want to make sure that things are friendly. Have good organizers, nice pull-out drawers to where you can access things from lower levels if that's important to you. But clients are also very aware that they want it to be very aesthetically appealing also. And so these are simple things that most people wouldn't even pay attention coming into your home, that you have wider bedroom doors. It's very practical, but it's not affecting your aesthetics. And so, do it beautifully, make all of the things work for your style. But, you know, make sure that it's things that you can do if you ever have physical issues. And I have a lot of clients through the years that have had injuries, unexpected, things like that. And having some simple solutions, especially with our vertical living that we have in a lot of these areas, is have at least a bedroom space down and up. So that if someone is not as comfortable to be going up and down the stairs, even if it's temporary, that there's a very comfortable space to sleep someone.
Yeah, those are great things to consider.
Absolutely.
It's something that, you know, I just don't think a lot of people really think it through all the way. And you can have more accessible you know, designs and easier to access designs without it looking, you know, like it's a handicap accessible house, or, you know, there's a lot of things that you can do to make it look nice and look natural, but still make it easier.
Absolutely. And even if you have visitors come to your home, you know, that you might just want to make sure that it's easy for them to be there and use the space, because there are those who have special needs that do come see us, and it's great when they feel very comfortable.
No, it's very true. Well, cool. Let's see here. Looks like we've kind of gone through our tips and tricks and everything. We're kind of in a Q&A section here. And so basically, if there are any other questions or anything like that, you guys can send them in, and we'd be glad to answer them. But one question that we received was talking about a long wall. They have a living room that just has a long wall, and they don't really know what to do with it. So I don't know if you'd be able to kind of address that and you know, some different options for what to do with that.
One of the first questions for me would be, where is the long wall located? What is the room? Is it just simply a living space or a large great room family space that most of the room is utilized, but it's just simply a wall that needs to be addressed aesthetically? That's where large scale pieces can really be helpful, and sometimes bigger pieces can be intimidating, but you need to, the term is break the wall down. Okay. And so by putting a larger scale piece of furniture there, larger accessories, it can be large wall groupings, and you don't want it all the same. That's where art and dimensional accessories are wonderful to bring that wall into scale with the rest of the space. And it's always the in and out pattern that adds the aesthetic interest in the room also. And I would say, from a design standpoint, what would we like that wall to do for us? How are we looking at that wall in the room? Is it a walk space that we need to be careful how we project into the room? And that's where clients can come to someone like myself for services to help them decide the right pieces. It can be pictures, measurements. I'm always happy to get that by email if you want to send me pictures, and we'll make it work.
That's cool. Awesome. Well, I don't know that we have any more here at this point, but I really appreciate you coming out. This has been fun for me, and I hope for the people watching and everything that, you know, it's been helpful and it's been good information. And one thing that I did want to put up on the screen here is just that you are available for hire, right?
Absolutely.
You know, it's something where you know, Julie does offer free consultations. You know, if you have a question, her email address is up there. You can always send her a picture. But even beyond that and just kind of the surface level help like that, she can really help you both with even looking at blueprints and home designs, to maybe help you tweak that, right?
Absolutely.
What are some of the other things that you offer and that you would recommend that people come see you for?
It can be from one room to a whole home. And I can help clients from the ground up, so to speak.
Yeah.
I've done extensive remodeling with clients through the years, new construction. It depends on the needs that the client has, but it can be everything from all the finishes on the exterior to the interior. And it can be something as simple as choosing the right sofa to the right scale.
Right.
To the space.
That's right.
Absolutely. Very good.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Julie. And like I said, I'll go ahead and make sure that information is in the comments below as well, so you have it. But feel free to go by Eleanor Owens and see Julie. Send pictures or questions to her email, or the phone number is there as well. And thank you so much. Thank you again, Julie, for joining us. And I look forward to bringing some more content like this to help you guys, in making decisions about your home and figuring out what you need to do. So thanks again, and hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.